and to be able to track our progress on climate action. And along the way, why build it? I'm Aimee Powelka with MassEnergize. Welcome to room 8. We are talking about tools for community outreach. I am a resident of Framingham, and you can see some photos of Framingham at the top there. And I have been working with the MassEnergize core team for about 1.5 years. We're a small nonprofit. And our core team really are community organizers, like many of you, and we've worked on various climate efforts. And MassEnergize really originated out of those efforts, programs like Solarize, and the thought that, a lot of us are doing the similar things. Maybe there's a way to share best practices and make this a little easier for everyone. So that's what I'm going to be sharing with you today, some of the tools that we've developed out of those lessons. So the first thing we learned as community organizers is that leveraging community networks is powerful. We saw that programs like Solarize to promote solar PV have 3 times greater number of residents installing solar than in communities that offer the same incentives but no Solarize programs. So those networks within your community are really powerful. Some of the challenges with the Solarize program is, is that it was hard to keep track of who's doing what and really make it all visible to everyone. And so the founders of MassEnergize thought, let's build a tool to make this visible to folks in our community and to be able to track our progress on climate action. And along the way, why build it for one community? Let's build it so it's customizable for multiple communities. And so we are currently working with 8 communities, and in conversations with 5 more. You see some logos of the communities we're working with here on this slide. All right, and here you see the tool we built. Here's the home page for our Newton. And you could see it's branded with Green Newton, which is the community organization. And the photos are from Newton. The platform is customizable for each community to display their photos, select their own actions and events, create their own messaging. So we really tried to make a software tool that meets the needs of your own community. We also heard Charlie say about the networks and sustainable sustainable Middlesex trying to promote networks and learning within communities. And that's something at MassEnergize we've also found to be very, very important and helpful to communities. So we hold a monthly meeting where we're building a network of for community practice so that organizers can share their lessons learned, share their experiences, and also try to collaborate on efforts such as webinars together. The next thing we've learned and try to apply to our strategy is that we need to promote multiple technologies, multiple actions, not single technologies. And let's take the example of Solarize. We're promoting solar PV. And if you approach a renter or a condo owner or a homeowner with trees on their property and a shady roof, they have to say no. So let's build something where people can find something to say yes to instead of one thing to say no to. And the way we do that is by having each community offer multiple actions. So the communities choose the actions that they are going to display on their MassEnergize webpage. They are free to create their own content entirely from scratch or to edit or use our templates for standard actions. The number of actions and the order is entirely within the control of the community. And as an individual, when you go to your community's webpage, you can choose actions and you can see about them, but you can mark them as done or add them as a to-do list and then see your carbon impact. And I'll get back to that in a minute. Here is the content of one of our individual actions as an example. This one's insulate and air seal your home. You have a description, basically an overview, and then different tabs following that. Steps to take, which is just a really abbreviated version of just how to get it done. Testimonials, so people can tell you what they think if they've done this action, and a deep dive for all those technical details. So as I mentioned, as a user, you can mark an action as done or to do. And here you see my individual user profile. And you can see on the left that I've completed 10 actions. I've added one to my to-do list, and I can see my carbon impact in pounds of carbon dioxide reduced per year. And one of the things we're working towards is to change that to a more relatable metric, equivalency, like trees planted, for example. I can also see a list of my completed actions and actions on my to-do list. Okay, next thing, getting people to move from talk to action, we really need to talk to people about what we're considering and talk to someone we trust. And so in the MassEnergize platform, what we have done is build in a Teams function. Here you can see a team from our Jewish Climate Action Network community. And this team is for members of the congregation Bethel from Sudbury. And what team members can do here is they can see other people on their team. So they feel more comfortable going to those folks and asking them, hey, did you do this action? And what was your experience? What do you think? The team can also then see their collective progress. Both you can see in the graph at the bottom where actions are broken out by their category, as well as a running total of the number of actions for all their members. They can also see their amount of carbon reduced. As organizers, we also want to be able to inspire one another. And we learn from one another, but we also don't all want to recreate the wheel. We might as well use one another's materials and use what's worked and not use something that hasn't worked. So MassEnergize creates and shares guidance and resources from community members. We have guidance and resources right now on event planning, on various webinar topics, and we have playbooks, which are basically the step-by-step how to take on a particular campaign or event. The topics so far we've created are green heating and cooling, community outreach, and getting the electricity of your choice. Here I show you a snapshot of one of our playbooks. This is the green heating and cooling playbook. And you can see that we cover it's not just a put together of all the materials that we have, but the background on why these materials work, thinking about your event or this technology. What are the benefits? What are the common barriers? What are your goals? So it gets you in the mind space to really set your event up in a way that you'll be able to respond to the needs of your community and meet your own goals. Another thing we learned is that recommending vendors help, right? Everyone, you're making an investment. We don't want to make a mistake with our money or our choice of company. And you don't have to look any further than your Facebook or your Nextdoor feed to see the numerous requests for a recommended plumber, a mechanic, even solar companies on those. And within MassEnergize, we built that in that our users can submit testimonials that I mentioned previously. The users can submit on any action of their choosing. They can choose to be named or remain anonymous, and they can mention a vendor, a particular vendor, if they so choose. So people can look at these and say, hey, I know this person, or this person's on my team. And so I can ask them, what did they think? I've shown you a lot about the software and the platform we have and mentioned some of the tools, but we all know that software and tools won't change the climate itself, at least yet. AI hasn't caught up to us. We still need people. We need connections of people. That's why we're all here today, is connecting from one another, learning best ideas. And that is something also that we do at MassEnergize. We try to connect our communities not only to one another, but to other nonprofits that have conversations and tools that might be valuable to our communities, as well as to partners and vendors that offer services that they may wish to promote within their community. And each of our communities can choose to work with these collaborations or partners on their own or not. Okay, and the last thing that we've learned is that counting matters. Everybody likes to see their progress. We want to see what progress we're making. Are we doing well? What's our goal? And communities want to be able to customize those goals. We don't want to set one for every community. So we have done a lot of work into creating reliable carbon estimates for our actions, and those have been verified with third parties that our standards are best practices for within the state of Massachusetts. And we use those carbon scores to inform our community actions, as well as the goals that each community set in terms of the number of households engaged and the number of actions completed. So you can see here, Energize Wayland has set a goal for households engaged and actions completed on the left. And you can see their progress towards that goal as the wheel fills in. You can also see the number of actions completed thus far by the categories in the bar graph. The darker orange are those actions that users have reported on the MassEnergize platform. And another thing we do is to help communities out is to bring in some of the state data that's currently available, but sometimes hard for organizers to have access to or keep up to date. And that's in the lighter orange, so that you can see, okay, in Wayland, 33 users of the MassEnergize platform has solar, but there's a whole bunch more people in Wayland that have solar, as illustrated by that light orange. And that is the presentation for today. You can see we're a core team of 5 volunteers there on the right. We typically have a few wonderful interns with us, and we are interested in chatting with communities. We have our information up there. Love to talk to you. And if you're an environmental justice community, we'd love to talk to you. We're looking to pilot our tools in some of those communities at no cost to your community. And from there, I will hand it over to Brad to facilitate the question and answer.
Thank you, Aimee. Great job. And it's great to see this many people. Some recognize a few names, but not most of them. So we are, right now it's about 11:15, so we have plenty of time for quite a number of questions. And with this size, I think we can use the raise hand. I don't think we can use the chat for questions, but if you raise your hand in the window or with the reaction, I can call on you. I see Kurt Newton has raised his hand.
Can you guys stop sharing screen? Because then it's easier to see everybody's faces a little better. Thanks, Aimee.
Yep. There we go.
Kurt, can you unmute?
Thanks, Fred. Yeah, I live in a small neighborhood that spans, it's the Woodburn neighborhood spanning Jamaica Plain and Rosendale. And we have an emergent but very engaged community of several hundred folks here who are interested in doing a number of programs. So I was wondering if you could say a little bit more about kind of, I don't know if it's your business model. What would happen, you know, for me and a few of my colleagues in the neighborhood who are very interested in the work that you're doing. And I love the don't reinvent the wheel stuff. It'll allow us to accelerate. Can you just say a little more sort of practicalities about what happens for a town or a community to engage with you?
So who wants to take that? Ellen, why don't you take that?
Yeah, nice to meet you, Kurt. So typically, we've worked with communities that are a little bit bigger, I would say, Kurt. So what we typically do is we have an initial call to sort of understand what you're trying to accomplish. and then kind of show you what our tool is. And then if you decide you want to use our tools, we have an onboarding process that involves a couple of trainings and homework for you guys to do. Is the site Aimee showed. So there are two ways to engage with us. One is to work with us and use our platform in your community. And that's the process I'm now describing. I think for a really small place, we'd really want to think about it, because there is a fair amount of work that goes into writing these actions to be specific to your community. And you're in Boston. So what would make more sense would be to have Boston have its own version of our software, and then have a team for your neighborhood, right? That's what we did with the Jewish Climate Action Network, right? Each congregation's 200, 300 people. Kind of maybe not makes sense to have a site for just that smaller number. So we can talk about that, but it's usually like probably realistically a 4-month process to really go from initial contact to really having a beta site up and running that you could use. But the second way you could participate with us is through the community of practice that Aimee described. So we meet monthly. Marcia and his colleagues from Green Newton have been fantastic contributors to that. And that's folks using the software, or any community, we sort of call it friends of MassEnergize, who might want to just share strategies and what you're doing. So Kurt, if you were interested, we certainly could add you to the Friends of MassEnergize email list. And if we get too big, we'll have to figure out what to do about that. But happy to also talk to you offline about bringing the software onto you. We, just to be upfront about it, you know, we're a nonprofit of basically volunteers at this point. We have a wonderful set of Mass CEC interns that we use. So we do try to charge communities a really small fee for using our stuff, so we can employ our IT team, who we do actually pay. Did that answer your question, Kurt?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, let's chat online, because as you can imagine, bringing the city of Boston onto something like this,
I know.
that's a big fish.
Yeah,
Right.
but you know what? You wouldn't have to be the city. It could be a collaboration of community organizers and a bunch of neighborhoods saying, hey, let's do this for ours and don't involve the city.
Yeah.
I think the city would, I agree, that's a multi-year exhausting process, but I think we can talk offline, Kurt.
Cool.
Happy
Thanks.
to.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have a question from Patty Muldoon of Arlington.
I'm gonna put my email in the chat just in case you want to reach out, Kurt.
I think the chat goes to everyone.
No, it just goes to everybody in this breakout room, not to
yay.
everyone in Hub. Yeah.
Okay. My question is a follow-up to that. I noticed you had a faith community in, I think, Sudbury, and I don't remember seeing Sudbury in your larger group. So I'm wondering, I think faith communities, rather than just geographic, they stretch across multiple areas. And I'm wondering how a faith community or a group of faith communities would be part of this, and how did that one get in?
So I think maybe I should take that one too, since that's the one I'm pretty involved in. So this came about exactly for the reason Kurt mentioned, which is we had the congregation I'm a part of in Sudbury. We were interested in using the platform, and one of our other board members, also a member of that congregation, we said, it seems crazy to have this software for just one congregation. And we were all connected also to the Jewish Climate Action Network that is seeking to mobilize congregations on climate change. So we then approached that existing group to say, hey, why don't we try and do this with the Jewish Climate Action Network, and then have multiple congregations participate. They were thrilled and saw it as a wonderful opportunity to get a small grant to help them do that. And that's how that came about. And now they're able to bring on lots of other Jewish congregations. So I could imagine this being denomination based, or it could be if you have multiple congregations, for example, across multiple communities that are connected in some way. So we're incredibly flexible, and the team function that Aimee showed you is how we have been trying to make this work. We just think the software, there's just a fair amount of energy, probably 20 hours of somebody's time really all in. If you think about all the process and training, I mean, it's not that hard, but there's a consensus process to what you say about an action and steps to take. And as community organizers, you know how hard it is to even write a flyer amongst your group. So we're being realistic about what it takes. we do have template actions that we could get you up and running in a day if you took our template actions. But if you want to customize them, then it takes more time. So I think you'd want to work with some pre-existing collaboration of congregations.
So my
Brad?
other follow-up to that is, I don't know if Jewish Climate Action Network is Massachusetts based, but often faith communities are not specific to a geographic area. And I'm wondering how that fits in.
It is Massachusetts based, although that we are now exploring working with them in another state. The way it works, if you cross state lines, is that a bunch of the actions we've written, we try to make them very actionable, which means it's specific to the incentives in that state, or like Brad is in Concord. So they're a municipal light plant, so they have different incentives that I have in Wayland, where I have grid and Eversource. So I think when you cross multiple state lines, it just gets a little more complicated to recommend vendors, to note specific incentives. And it's that level of detail that we find actually to be the helpful thing. So I think that's the trade-off.
And I would add to what Ellen says, we are envisioning communities be either geographic or something else unifying. It could be a university or college, or it could be a corporation or something. We're kind of envisioning, we haven't gone there yet, but that's the kind of thing where if you had a group that had some consistency, wants to run it over time, that would be very much possible. Who else would like to ask a question? Kathleen.
Hi, thank you for doing this. I have a question that is about way earlier in the process. I know a number of people who are climate skeptics or climate deniers, and pretty much anything I have seen come out of Massachusetts is way too technical for them to even, they start looking at it, and it's like, I don't know what they're talking about, and I'm not interested enough to find out. So what would be some very basic and interesting ways for skeptics to begin learning? And I have a lot of relatives in Indiana. Indiana's very conservative. They never talk about climate change. It's not on their radar at all. So I'd love to get them started.
Aimee.
Brad, can I take this? So I'm from Wisconsin, which is also very mixed.
Yeah.
And one of the things I think that I think about is to connect with them where they are. I don't want to get into an argument about climate, but if I can say I insulated my home and I'm a lot more comfortable, it saved me money. You're convincing them of an action without convincing them of an ideal. And I don't think that, they're necessarily contradictory. We can get to the place we need to, reduce carbon without convincing everyone that that's what we need to do. That's my approach.
Yeah.
But some of my cousins really want to start reading or seeing a video or something. Do you have recommendations of what videos or books are basic, not technical?
I think that's a great question for Sustainable Middlesex.
Yeah.
I think there's such a broader range of experiences with the whole group.
I think that's the kind of question which we could approach in our community of practice, because we're all trying to figure out this messaging.
Yeah.
And if you hit them with, oh, it's the climate emergency, and they see that on your site, that's just, they're done.
It doesn't, they're done.
And the people who know it's a climate emergency, they don't need to see that. They need to see what I can do here. So this is a great topic.
And that was in one person's presentation. It was like 75% of people were interested in this. How do you engage skeptics or deniers?
Yeah.
I think that was in Reaching Beyond the Choir.
Yes,
which is, reaching your average homeowner in your community, someone who wouldn't attend these meetings.
Right.
Yeah.
One thing
not necessarily climate denier.
One thing I remember hearing, Kathleen, was a wonderful speaker that I listened to from the New York Times. They do a ton of looking at the analytics of what page everyone's reading. And a few years ago, everyone was clicking on what's the problem, but the stories that are getting everyone's attention that people are actually reading are about solutions. We're actually tired about hearing about the problem, and people gravitate, and I suspect this is true even more in COVID. We gravitate to a story about something that's working, something that I just heard a very funny podcast about America. Everything's totally broken. Like signing up for a vaccine in Massachusetts is broken. School's broken. The only thing that wasn't broken is Tom Brady reliably still gets to the Super Bowl. Tom Brady is not broken. So I think we're interested in stories, which made me laugh actually, which I could use more of. So I'm with kind of Aimee on this, but I'm curious what other people have to say. I know Corinne had her hand up. Maybe it was on this.
Yeah.
I think people are interested in things I can do that will work, that will make my life better, that will make my family's life better. And so like not leading with climate, you're probably not going to convince someone. We're in our camps, we're tribal, we believe what we believe. I think it may not be worth the effort, and really getting people to do things that make driving an electric car, if it's super fun to drive, if it costs me less than the other car, I'm in. Right. Yeah. That's kind of what that's about. So I don't know. I think Roseanne's had been nodding, and if others want to chime in on this, but I think it isn't something we've done a ton of working on. So I also want to get back to our stuff, but Roseanne?
So I've been a change agent for almost 20 years in corporate and other areas. And the biggest thing you can do is reach them where they are. So it's not about what you're pushing on them. It's about understanding them, where they're coming from, what motivates them, what interests them, and then tying that to climate. Maybe they just care about saving money. Well, great, that's a win-win for us, because there's things you can do from a climate perspective that also saves them money. And so that's what I'd start talking to them about. Now, Kathleen, sounds like you've got a mix. You've got climate deniers, and then you have some people that want the information.
Yeah.
So then it's delivering what they're looking for.
Right.
Yeah.
So Corinne, did you have a question?
Yes, I had two questions.
Great.
One, you had mentioned, a grant and a fee, and I was just wondering if you could give me an idea of what the fee of the program is. And the second question was pertaining to reaching beyond the choir. Let's say you do get a group to sign up. It seems to me that those most motivated to fill it out are the ones that are doing the most actions. But how do you engage those that aren't, and not do a guilt trip on them, like, oh geez, I'm not doing any of these? So how do you reach out and engage people?
Aimee, you want to take that?
So those are great questions. The community pricing depends on your population and the percent of your environmental justice community. And we have a fee structure. Ellen, help me out. I don't know what community you're in, Corinne.
I'm in Bedford.
Bedford. So it's a fairly small community. So I can't remember.
We've been wanting someone from Bedford.
I mean, we have a setup fee. Maybe you could put a setup fee is around $1,000, so $1,200, $1,300, something, and then an annual fee just so we can kind of keep our software updated. It's in the hundreds of dollars. So we're not talking about a huge amount of money. Like, you couldn't build this website for that amount of money for sure. And we give you a ton of data analytics, so you can download all the users, you can see what they're doing. We're working on functionality so you can communicate amongst your team. So a bunch of that stuff. And we can, maybe can provide a link to the pricing in the chat. But the second question I wanted to respond to, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, Corinne, because we're all struggling with this, getting by on the choir. And I'm kind of having two thoughts lately. One is, first of all, even in the choir, people can do more. I mean, it's every ton of, politically, I want more households engaged. That's super important. I need all hands on deck. It's time for everybody to get in the game. Politically, that's very important. But, carbon doesn't care. A ton of carbon saved is a ton of carbon saved. So I think a bunch of people have done stuff. There's a big leap a lot of people can take. So I don't want to give up. I want to also think about the people who have done things to do even more. I think some of us feel like we've done what we've done, and there are a bunch more things to do, and I could get into the weeds on that too easily. But on the folks who haven't done stuff, we've been running some events, like actually for our congregation, and we've sort of started, people were out, we just did something on composting that was super helpful. Lots of people have signed up for composting pickup. It's not the most important thing for climate change, but to Roseanne's point, it's kind of met people are out. Now they're kind of engaged with our platform. Now they've signed up, we'll do our next session on greening your electricity. If you're in a CCA town, opt up or sign up for community solar, or everyone should be able to make their electricity greener. There's a million ways to do that. I think that's kind of, we also have been using this Teams function that really puts the challenge out to little social networks. So and I think we're really still experimenting, but we're having some luck. Like in this congregation, we said, look, we want everybody on the board to do it. In my town, I wrote to every I'm chair of the energy committee, but I wrote to every person on every board saying, hey, we'd like you to take leadership in the town. And I got really actually pretty great responses. Now they need to put that to everybody else on the planning board saying, hey, I'm doing it. And Marcia, I think, has probably better ideas than me, and she has her hand up.
Well, thank you so much. This has been great. I just want to say that Green Newton put together a chart that originated, I think, from MassEnergize, that we list every single possible place that we can reach out to, every social platform. And so let's say we're having a webinar and we trying to put a little check mark. Do we post it on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, every neighborhood group, next door? And my next thing, which I think Ellen spoke to very well, is that getting beyond the choir. I am urging people on our board, people say, well, I don't like Facebook, and I'm not on Nextdoor, and I'm not on this, and I'm not on that. And so, if you want to get beyond the choir, you need your associates to get over that discomfort. You don't have to post what you're eating for dinner, but you can share a webinar, or you can say, there's an issue coming up that we're talking about, home rule petition, to electrify buildings, something like that. Individuals, and all people have to do, I'm really on the bandwagon for this, is click the little heart, even click like. You don't have to post, but it builds up a buzz and support for the people who are posting.
I just want to say one thing at that point, which is we had a organic group start in Wayland around COVID, around community gardens. It was called Wayland Grows. And literally in a week, a Facebook group of 250 people formed in a week. And so we're members of that, and we don't dominate it, but we sprinkle in stuff. So now that group is sort of connected. So like the question is, who are those groups? Get folks in there. And I'm totally into we have that, we can give it to you. We also have that same template of we use a spreadsheet for every event we do. And it's a great way to plug in volunteers, because like take this posting and you post in these 5 places, you get it into these 4 newsletters. So in Wayland, we're teeny, but we have probably a list of over 20 community groups that we connect with every time we want to get the word out for something. So I don't know. Other questions, I'll stop talking.
There's a question from Liz. Good to see you here.
Thanks. It's actually Lisa Olney from
Lisa,
Welcome.
I'm sorry.
Nice to see those of you I know and those of you I don't know. I was just wondering, for the partners, so like the Green Newtons that are using this, how much time does that group spend maintaining their piece of this, like, creating those individual campaigns? And can you give us a sense of like the maintenance piece of this?
I'm not personally, we have a team of people who are great. And I recommend maybe going to Green Newton's website and look at our Take Action link. We've got a graphic designer to change. We were advised that the pictures, all different pictures, are not effective. So we have graphics. It does take a commitment. It's a little like a hobby, some people do Sudoku, some people do crossword puzzles or play chess on it. It's a commitment to people to work with MassEnergize to get it set up, and then drive people to come to it. And that's why we're talking it up. We have, was invited to do a write-up in our farm newsletter. And so in that newsletter to the farm group, I'm saying, go to Green Newton's Take Action link and, you know, make a commitment to certain actions. It's a lot of work, but you know, if you're here, you're probably not the kind of person who shies away from work. This is something that you care about. And if you want it to succeed, you're just going to do whatever you can to make it succeed.
Yeah. There's a question from Celeste.
Yeah, hi. So this is actually kind of a two-parter. So my first thought, and maybe it's better suited to the bigger group, but it's kind of how do we measure what's success, what's effective communication, and specifically with respect to using like the MassEnergize platform, how do you recommend getting the word out to the community once we have a beautiful, you know, exciting new dashboard to share with people and get them engaged with it?
I can chat on that. So, and going back a little to Lisa's question also. So I'm in Framingham, and we set up our platform as a group of like 3 different environmental organizations, and we agreed on the actions. And so there's a lot of setup work in terms of building consensus as to what that goes. And then as a first step, we tried to recruit folks from those communities to become users so that when we start promoting it, people don't go to a platform and see, you know, 15 users. They go to a platform and see maybe 50 users. And so we have been soft launched for about a year. And I think Celeste and Lisa, the outreach piece, that is what takes so much time, and trying to convince people why to go to your platform. I think Ellen has hit on a great solution, which is reaching out to community leaders and having them get on there and promote it. But and building the team function. I think those two are things I'm really optimistic about here in Framingham. Part of it is also, you know, if I want people to go to my platform, I feel like I have to offer them something. So we're kind of starting up in Framingham. So even creating an event is a lot of work for my group, Sustainable Framingham. And so as we build those, now we have something to offer, a place people can go either before, during, or after this event if they want, if they can't make it. And connections with it, starting to form those connections within the community. So I don't know if that helped answer your question. Yeah. Okay.
Sue, do you have your hand up?
I do. Thank you. Yeah. So this is great, and I really appreciate it. I am from Wenham, Mass, and near Beverly. About 8 years ago, I was really involved in all this. Green Communities just started, and we did our first composting, curbside pickup composting. We were really rocking, and then I disappeared for 8 years and came back and found out that that's the last things that had happened, actually. So, which is kind of crazy, but so I'm wondering, I'm thinking about trying to, I see, you know, where the sustainable Middlesex is all sort of going sort of west and a little bit that way. And we over here in Cape Ann are really just not really involved. So I'm contemplating trying to organize a Cape Ann or an Essex County or whatever, which would then subset for Hamilton Wenham or, you know, Beverly or Gloucester, or whoever it is. I don't really even know who these people are yet. I'm just formulating an idea. And every other day I go, I'm not going to do this. And then I go, yeah, I am. And I'm, no, yeah, I know. So I'm a little schizophrenic. But so would that be a proper use of your site? Like, for example, it would be Energize Cape Ann or whatever it would be. And then underneath that umbrella would be each town. And perhaps each town would be each of their groups inside of their, is that, am I getting the tree correctly?
Yeah, you could, it absolutely could work. There are a few little things you'd want to think about. Well, like, do some of those towns have their own municipal light plants, and there's slightly different programs they offer, but functionally the architecture of the software could work fine that way. You could have a regional thing, you could have a town be a team, and then you can have sub teams within a town for whatever you would normally do it. I will say that we're learning a lot, and sometimes it's slightly hard for people to know, like take that extra step to join a team, but the architecture works fine. It could definitely work for you.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's going to be a long haul, I'm sure. I'm just curious about.
Yeah,
heading
I
in the
mean,
right
yeah, I
direction.
don't know, maybe somebody else on this call knows activists in your neck of the woods up there that they could
I tried
connect
to
you with.
get Beverly on some of this. There's some Gloucester connections I just made, so
I could
Great.
connect you with some folks in
that would
Wenham,
be
I think.
great.
You can have my emails. It's in the chat. You can
I
email me.
do. I
Sue,
already wrote it
Yeah.
down.
and I'll connect you with someone on the planning board up there.
Okay, thanks.
I'm just wondering, for people in communities who are not connected with groups like Sustainable Middlesex, which is, this is the first time that actually I'm participating because I really network with a lot of groups. But another good one is Mass Climate Action Network, Sarah Dooling. And so I would look at, they're bringing together groups. Brad, I think do you attend those?
Yeah, I'm on the board for MCAN and active. Yeah,
I think that's a very good connection, to get help from, networking with other, it's all about not reinventing the wheel.
right.
There's
did
a
you
lot
have
of duplication I'm already noticing. I was sort of, when I got this,
Yeah.
found out about this little thing, and I was so excited to join it. I called some people and I emailed people in Beverly and emailed people in Ipswich, and there's all kinds of mothers out front and, the energy committee, and there's hundreds of them. I'm blindly emailing maybe 40 emails, and I think I got 3 or 4 emails back. But there's, I mean, as it is with Hamilton Wenham Green, we've been defunct for years and years, and people are still joining the group. So yeah. So anyway, it's really exciting, but it's going to be daunting.
It's daunting, but it's fun to work together.
Yeah. This has been a great Saturday morning for me.
Great.
I was just curious, like Mothers Out Front has chapters in towns all over. Have any of them used this platform?
Individuals.
No, not as a Mothers Out Front group. We've actually been in touch. We've been in touch with them, and we haven't quite put anything together globally with Mothers Out Front. I've been in touch with them by email, but
Yeah, because I know they also use Nation Builder, but
they do.
It sounds like this also has a lot of things that doesn't. So.
Yeah. Okay. So, any questions from Bill? I see you on the call, or anybody who hasn't spoken.
I'm so grateful for the work that people are doing, and so grateful to learn about the exciting organizing paradigms that are emerging, which I didn't really know about. So I've got a couple of people I'm going to be talking to about how to make a stronger connection to the work you're doing. Thank you very much.
Great. I really appreciate that. Where are you from, Bill?
I'm living in Arlington. My wife and I are part of the Climate Action Working Group at First Parish Unitarian Universalist there. And we're also connected to Mothers Out Front in our own town.
Okay, great. Okay. So we're here, and we would love to, I would say, keep in contact with any of you in your towns or groups that are interested. Easy to find us, and or connect us to other people you think we should be connected with. But I don't know, should we close up shop this morning? What do you think, Aimee?
Seems like it. Corinne, I just wanted to make sure I put the pricing in the chat. Did that make sense to you?
Yes, I saw that you did. I copied and pasted it, but I actually haven't looked at it.
Yeah, so the table gets a little messed up, but it's based on the number of households. And then there's the first price quote is a setup, and the second is an annual maintenance fee.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's good to have neighboring towns like Concord, Bedford, Lexington, all sort of cross-fertilizing each other.
How is Concord involved in this initiative?
So we have a local site which called Cooler Concord. It was you can name the site whatever you want, and our energy committee has some input into it. I'm working on it, and we haven't done that much yet. We haven't reached out to all the organizations, all the people in town, but we're about ready to do that. And we're trying to make it consistent with the climate planning that the town is doing, so that it's not confusing. These people want you to do this, these other people want you to do that. Trying to not cause confusion, but help people get stuff done.
So is that like through energy related committee in Concord that
Yeah.
you're doing this through?
Yeah.
Oh, it's separate from the committee. I mean, it's aligned with the committee, but the committee's not leading it, right, Brad?
Well, everybody who works on it is on the committee. Now, the committee, so one of the challenges, which you might pick up, is that if we were actively promoting certain service providers as a committee, then we would have to jump through some hoops. So we've decided not to do that. You have your option to do that or not. And we're working on strategies for making it still easy for people to find the right service providers through the platform or otherwise, without getting into any trouble in that sort.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking, like, for our town, I'm very involved in Bedford Mothers Out Front. I'm also very involved in our first parish environmental justice committee.
Right.
But it's seeming to me, we also have an energy and sustainability committee in the town, that might actually be the best platform for this type of thing, because it would reach out to everyone in our town. So
Possibly. There's no
I mean,
one size
I
fits all.
think in Newton, right, Marcia, you guys have linked from the town website links to Green Newton, and then Green Newton take action. So like Green Newton has helped develop the content on this site, but then the city links to it. So I think there's usually not that much bandwidth. Newton has more bandwidth on sustainability than most places, but at the staff level, but usually like a community group can populate it and then at least get the town to link to it, which I think is Newton's done that very effectively.
So the recent development is that they do not want, they are not going to connect our Heat Smart program, the heat pump program, with Green Newton, because we recommend 2 installers, and that they've decided that, so the way Green Newton promotes the Heat Smart program, heat pump technology now, is to say that we support what is recommended in Newton's climate action plan, which is a subtle difference between we can't say we're collaborating with the city of Newton. We can say we are working towards Newton's climate action plan. As a matter of fact, if you go to Green Newton, you can get if you're in another community, you can get so many resources. We have our mayor on March 30th is doing a presentation introducing our new energy coach and speaking about our climate action plan. If you live in a community where you don't have a climate action plan, you can go to the city's website. If you have any trouble, you can contact me, Marcia@greennewton.org, and I can give you the link to Newton's climate action plan. That's a good thing about connecting with MCAN or Sustainable Middlesex, or doing MassEnergize, is that you're getting so much information. Don't become overwhelmed. You take one thing at a time, and you try to, bring in other people who will feel the same way, how important this is.
Okay.
So I just want to make a final comment to Lisa. Many people not know she's on the Board of Select people in Wellesley and came from the sustainability space. So one thing I have wondered about our software is that, for communities that have net zero or decarbonization goals, we can easily count the municipal part. We could track it in Mass Energy Insight. There's lots of good ways of counting. It's the residential business stuff that's just wicked hard to count. And so that's what we tried to solve for. So the software does a really good job of counting through both self-reports and pulling in state data, which you still have to put in, but at least there's a way to put it in, Lisa, and then show it. So if you want to visibly, I think it's important to be visible, vocal, and count. So it's a way of counting, and otherwise, and this is our way of also pushing like Mass Save to say, you've got to give us the data by community about how many insulation jobs have been done, so that we can all count and push our communities to achieve our goals. So, you know, Marcia, we have plans, but how do we measure whether we're actually getting there? And we think what we have is one of the tools in that toolbox. And we hope to evolve it, make it better. So that's how I might think about it in Wellesley. I don't know if I'm right though.
I'm sorry, can you just repeat which one you have? You said the two you need are residential, was it residential municipal you need, but you have business, or what was it?
No, all municipalities can see what they're spending on energy through MassEnergy Insight, the state platform. But we can't, there isn't a single place to go, or even there isn't even a tool before us that would allow municipalities to document and show in a public facing, easy way what's happening in the residential household space. We could also, our tool could also record what's happening for businesses. That would be easy for us, but we've really focused on the household one because in most communities, it's quite significant contributor to GHGs, like more than 50% of our, in most communities, it's upwards of 80%.
Yeah. Lisa, did you have another question?
I was just going to ask if you have been in touch at all with UU Mass Action as sort of an aggregator of faith groups.
I have sent information about it, and I didn't follow up. This was quite a while ago, and I should do that.
Yeah, I'm happy also to be in touch with them and just ask if they've thought of taking this on. I mean, there are just so many UU congregations, my own included, that really want to be doing something like this with their congregants, but kind of don't know how, or it just feels like, you know, JCAN has kind of set a great model for what it could look like. And
if you do that, and I'll do it also, they will get the message twice.
I'm also on the climate team that UU Mass Action facilitates, which is involved with various churches. And as you may know, UU Mass Action just had their first regional kickoff meeting earlier this week. And this strikes me as, you know, a great potential agenda item for one of the upcoming, you know, monthly regional meetings. So if you do talk to them, you might want to suggest that or inquire about that.
Okay, very, very good. That's important.
Thank you all.
Because actually, that did come up at the regional meeting this week, was about data collection and, you know, what's a good resource. And one thing that wasn't mentioned, but it was coming back in my mind, is there's also Create Climate Justice, which is another platform to share information. So.
Okay.